and make adjustments according to how people will, to the way and the timing of people joining us. Okay, so welcome everyone to the GeneCology showcase. It's a real pleasure to start our day in a COVID adapted format, unfortunately, but it is what it is. So when I was thinking about today, I was reflecting back on how we started, and I would just like to share with you this document that I found, which is the application almost exactly 13 years ago of our designation as a research group or center, stage 1, that we submitted to initially to our dean at the time, Professor Rod Simpson, who was absolutely wonderfully supportive. And this is where the title came from. So GeneCology was meant to encompass all that we were doing, which was genetic work, environmental restoration, forestry, ecology, horticulture, aquaculture, production, genomics, and physiology. And while we now don't do the forestry and the horticulture anymore, we changed emphasis, and we have a big new emphasis on biodiscovery and bioinnovation. I think the essence of it still is there. We, as a group, have grown from the 5 scientists who were in the first application to now over 30 members. Between now and then, we had about 100 HDR completions and well over 1,000, probably more like 1,500 or 2,000 peer-reviewed publications. So, and many $1 million of grants and multiple grants and many collaborations, both nationally and internationally. So I think we've done well to create a research culture at USC to put us on the map, at least in some areas, and to forge really fun relationships around the world. And I wish I had nice graphics that show arrows that go all over the place with.
Yeah, I've logged on here.
Hi, Roland. We're seeing you there.
Hi, Abigail. We're having difficulties with the meeting room here. Just bear with me a minute.
Okay. So I think we have connected with multiple places, nationally and internationally, and by various indicators, I think we can hold our head high. Until Roland comes back to us and gives us his welcome and his view of our center, I just want to, again, being in a sentimental mood, when I first came to USC about 15 years ago, there were 2 gel running machines. We had, Allison had a apparatus for doing genotyping, which was a very, very effective, but you know, with the big gels and very manual. So a far cry from what we do now with the MySeq and the bioanalyzer, not bioanalyzer, and the sequencer for genotyping, and the robots and all of that. And really that's all we had. And if you walk in the lab now, we really are quite well equipped. And when, I mean, obviously our application to first become a research group and then become a center was successful. And we put a major emphasis to build up the infrastructure, both the human infrastructure and the physical infrastructure, through a combination of getting equipment, through grants, through a sharing scheme where different people, you know, we wanted something, so everybody put a little bit of money in, and with that we went to the dean and he put more money in, and with that we went to Roland and he put money in, and we made things happen. And I think that was and still is part of our strength, that we come from, you know, multidisciplinary background, but in general, I mean, we are all experimental biologists. We all need sort of similar things, and we get together and we, you know, make things happen for us as much as we can within the center. What is going to happen from now on in the current environment, it's hard to say, but we are really committed to try and maintain a supportive and encouraging and an exciting environment, so that even in the hard times where funding is dropping and will be dropping, that you still feel that research is important at university level, but certainly at the center level, and that we are here to help you, you know, succeed and reach what you want the best way that we can. Is Roland back on?
Yeah, I'm back, and sorry, the meeting room, we've got a problem that the queuing of the Zoom and the webinar's first, and we just can't work out how to solve it. So I'm on my laptop computer in my office, and
Okay.
because we've got a terrible internet connection, worse than my home internet connection here up at the Innovation Centre, I've turned the video off.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Abigail?
Yes, we can. And would you like to start by saying a few words, Roland?
Yes, absolutely, Abigail. So, look, I felt it would be appropriate to make some remarks about the GeneCology Research Centre. Many of you won't realise this, but...
Oops, we lost you.
Can you hear me all? Broken up. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, sorry about this. It's terrible, the internet connection. It's like we're living in a third world country up here on the Sunshine Coast. But anyway, I started as the inaugural or first Pro-Vice Chancellor Research at the university. So when I was a candidate for interview back in, would have been about August or September of 2010, I had to do a presentation on vision, mission and plan for research at the university. And I reached out to Barb Palmer, who at the time was the manager of the Office of Research, to gather up some facts and figures. And what did I find? Lo and behold, there were two centres that had been put in place to crystallise the development of a research agenda at the university. And at the time, one of them was the Sustainability Research Centre, and the other one, it was actually called the GeneCology Research Group back in those days, right? And I'll come to that in a moment. And I remember having to reach back out to Barb and say, what does this term GeneCology mean? Because I was very confused by it all, because I had to understand a bit. I did a little bit of homework, obviously, about the research of the university. And at the time, she sort of said it's genetics, it's ecology, it's physiology, it's microbiology, so therefore GeneCology. And that's sort of how it started. And clearly, right back at the beginning, like when Greg Hill was the Deputy Vice Chancellor and I came in as the inaugural Pro-Vice Chancellor Research, GeneCology was a pioneer of the research agenda for the university, and it's been a pioneer for the research agenda in many, many different ways. So let me just say a little bit about that. Like if I go back and reflect on the university and its research agenda, it's really ramped up over the last 9 and a bit years. There's been about a 10-fold growth in the amount of research income and GeneCology has been there punching really hard and pulling its weight and doing you know, a major share of the lifting there, so very significant contributor. But if we look at the sort of the pioneering things that GeneCology has done, the very first ARC Future Fellowship at the university to Scott Cummins, member of GeneCology. the very first ARC DECRA award to the university through Toma Ventura, GeneCology member. You know, we've been reasonably successful at partnering with universities around the traps on ARC LEAF grant applications to acquire infrastructure for research, GeneCology. I'll stop in a moment, but yeah, our very first member of the ARC College of Experts, and this is your spiritual leader, Abigail Elizur, GeneCology. And then another first, our very first fellow of one of the learned academies in Australia, the Academy of Technological Sciences and Engineering, Abigail Elizur, GeneCology. So a real pioneer for the research agenda at the university. So, you know, we've grown the research very, very rapidly. GeneCology's been doing more than its fair share of the heavy lifting, and sort of that GeneCology idea, Abigail and the leadership team, Helen Wallace at the time, it's sort of a life sciences cluster of research. You know, I did a little rejig to the policy for research centres and institutes, and it immediately, as quickly as I could get that through the political system and governance system of the university, it became a research centre. And they sort of continue to build the life sciences base of the university through GeneCology, welcoming many staff and students into the fold to build critical mass and to develop excellence within the life sciences. In recent times, you've been more focused, and I commend this, more focused in the biodiscovery area. And I just wrote a few notes for myself this morning, going back to the beginning. You haven't lost your roots and your direction. It goes back to the beginning where it was genetics relating to all those other things. Functional genomics is your central platform, and a bunch of, you know, specialised topics like natural products, horticulture and plants, aquaculture, microbiology and biotechnology. So that's to be very much commended. That's a nice thrust that you're on at the moment. The other thing that I should say is in this rapid growth of research and rapid development of the research agenda at USC, the federal government, I think everyone probably knows about it, but I'll just touch on it briefly. They run a scheme known as the Excellence in Research for Australia assessment framework, and they've done a handful of them, 2010, 12, 15 and 18. And if we go back to 2010, USC had no areas that were performing at world standard or higher. Probably more an artefact of we didn't quite package ourselves up properly. When they ran the next exercise in ERA 2012, a pioneer again, GeneCology, there were two areas, biological sciences and agricultural and veterinary sciences, that scored a 3 world standard for biology and a 4 for agriculture and veterinary sciences, virtually all the GeneCology research at the university. And as the research has grown and developed, that life sciences base led through GeneCology has made a really significant contribution to our ERA outcomes. And I'll just quickly touch on it. When we did the ERA in 2015, after we got some serious momentum into research within the university and within GeneCology, Ag and Vet again performed very, very strongly. In fact, Ag and Vet improved a little bit. That improved from a 3 to a 4. But then we got a 4 in ecology, a 5 in zoology, a 4 in fisheries. And then when we did it, so that's a significant improvement. And then when we did it again in 2018, there were a host of areas all performing at the highest level of 5: ecology, zoology, agriculture and veterinary sciences, horticulture, production, veterinary sciences and technology, which at USC is essentially biotechnology. So congratulations to the team. Abigail, you and the team, you've done that for the university. And I say this to Abigail and various senior people at the university quite often, and I'll repeat it here: you make your DVCR look good. Thank you very much. It's much appreciated. It's your hard work that's done that. And look, the final thing I want to say, which Abigail touched on in her introduction, we had an external review of the Higher Degree by Research program done a couple of years ago. It was led by Helene Marsh, who used to be the Pro Vice Chancellor graduate research at James Cook University. And when you have an external review done, they interview a large number of people, starting from the top, the executive of the university, going down to the directors, the heads, the deans, down to the individual researchers and the individual students, to find out what's going on in the HDR space, or whatever they're doing a review of. And so they're obviously triangulating to get to the bottom of the truth of what's happening, because sometimes in organisations what's said at the top does not trickle down to the bottom, and the bottom is disparate from what's coming in at the top, and that causes issues, and that ends up being recommendations about harmonising the agenda and fixing those sorts of issues and problems. But what came out of that review, which is a testimony to all of our research centres and institutes, including GeneCology, was we had a bit of a poll who felt largely quite happy with the environment for research at the university. And the reason for that was there's a connected network of academics and researchers that support them. It's a very supportive environment, plenty of resources for them to be able to thrive in their research, because research is very, very costly, obviously. Frameworks in place within those centres to support the students to go to conferences and travel to overseas, and national laboratories to do collaborative research. But most importantly, and today's event is one of these examples, the research culture, right? That there's a culture of seminars, meetings, fellowship amongst the colleagues to support each other. And this is probably one of the most important things that a group like the GeneCology Research Centre provides, is that sort of linchpin centre point for that fellowship and that support. Of course, the students who sat with academics who were sole researchers, they had not a very good experience, because they don't get exposed to that type of environment. And that's an issue that Steph Riak and I have to keep working on, to how do we sort of get them to cluster together in some fashion to create a critical mass and to provide that sort of supportive framework. So congratulations to Abigail. Helen Wallace is no longer here anymore. She's moved on to Griffith University, but she was one of the pioneers that helped to shape and form GeneCology and the research at the university. So many thanks to Helen as well. Been a really good colleague for all of us, including yours truly. And best of luck to all of you. I will have to duck in and out today as your DVCR. I've got some other meetings that I need to do, but this is a wonderful opportunity for you to share ideas, to basically network. I know it's in a virtual room rather than a real room, but that still works okay. And to fellowship and supporting each other and providing a strong research environment. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to you before your workshop. I do have to dash to another appointment. I will come back onto the webinar when I'm not in these other events, and all the best. So thank you, Abigail.
Thank you very much, Roland, and thank you for the kind words. It's not me at all. It's having such a fantastic group of people that are all committed to, to making research happen at USC. I want to make sure that Helen has been an incredible support and force during the time that she was here. And I want to acknowledge Peter Timms and Steve Ogborn, who've been working with me to, continue with the leadership in the group. So really, it is an effort that is only made possible because the team is so fantastic. And you touched on points. I think I want to thank you, Roland, for being such a supportive leader in our field. We have benefited tremendously from the research fellowships that you have instituted, and quite a few of our members have started here as fellows, and for the contribution to the university, for the financial contribution. And I think on our part, we worked hard, and I'm so proud of everybody. But the thing that we have the most is, I think, Sanka, can you mute your speaker? That's okay, thank you. Is the incredible collegiality that I think we have fostered in our center. And to me, that is the dearest thing to my heart, and I thank you all for that.